Hey, Michael with XForcePC. We're taking a look at our highest end gaming system. This is what we've been in the past calling the Total Overkill system, although I'd probably argue with myself over that. I'm the one that picked that name, but technically not all of this is overkill. It's all really nice stuff. What it means simply is it's the best of the best. So we have the fastest processor, the fastest graphics card, and pretty much the fastest RAM, and one of the best motherboards you can put in a system, as well as one of the best water coolers and one of the largest hard drives that you can put in. So let's run through that real quick. First of all, we'll start with the outer part, the case. The case is lined with foam, anti-noise foam, which prevents obviously noise. So it's going to be a quiet case. It's also pretty innovative in that the front does come off, snaps off quite easily, and then you'll find behind that front 3 large fans which are pulling air through a filter, and that filter is held on with magnets. So it's very easy to clean that filter, and you probably about once every 6 months want to clean that filter, and that keeps the dust from building up inside of your system, so that's kind of nice. Now in the top also pops off, and behind the top is a radiator, a dual fan radiator. When it comes to water cooling, a single fan, small radiator is no better than a good air cooler. So if you're going to go water cooling, you want to go with a dual fan radiator, and that's what we've done here. And there's some really cool software that comes with the water cooler. It's a high-end, again, Corsair water cooler, and it'll let you set up rules, and it'll show you the temperature readings of all the sensors on the motherboard and the processor and the graphics card and so forth. And it'll let you determine how fast the fan is going to run and the pump is going to run at various temperature settings, so you can fully customize that. And they have some preset modes, a quiet mode, which I usually leave it on, and a performance mode, and then there's one other one I can't remember the name of. I usually leave it on quiet all the time, and it still manages to keep the processor nice and cool. Now also, inside the system, we have a really nice motherboard with USB Type-C on it. Not all systems come with that. That's a new type of connector that you're seeing on some of the newer phones. It's also on the new MacBook Pros, I believe. And it is faster than USB, regular USB 3.0, USB 2.0. And it also has no particular direction. In other words, you can't plug it in upside down. Like with USB, you always have to look at the end and make sure you plug it in the right way. Great thing about USB Type-C, you don't have to plug it in any particular direction. And I know that's great when you're trying to plug in your phone or whatever in the dark, and it's a pain to try to plug things in a certain direction. So it has that, USB Type-C, USB 3.1, 3.0, and 2.0 ports. It also, of course, on the top has some ports in the front, and we have 2 USB 2.0s, 2 USB 3.0s. As I mentioned earlier, we have the fastest gaming processor that you can get. It's an Intel quad core, and you might say, well, there's 6 core, and there's 8 core, and there's 12 core processors, but for gaming, really, most games only use 1 or 2 cores. So you're better off having fewer cores that are faster than lots and lots of slower cores, because if you go out and look at the 12 core processor that's like $1,700, yeah, it's got 12 cores, but it only runs like at 3 gigahertz. So you're better off having 4 cores running at like 4.5 gigahertz than you are having 12 cores running at 3. So that's kind of the rationale behind the processor choice. We have a 1 terabyte SSD in the M.2 slot. M.2 is a new form factor for SSDs, and it goes right onto the motherboard. There's no cords to run, cables, and it hooks directly to the PCI Express bus, so there is no limitation in how fast it can run other than the SSD itself. In other words, the interface is not the limiting factor as it is sometimes with conventional SATA SSDs. We also have an 8 terabyte archive drive. This is a conventional spinning hard drive, and it's used for storage. So we'll make it the S drive for storage, and we'll actually label the drive storage. And then you can just drag anything you want over to that 8 terabyte drive, and good luck trying to fill it up, because 8 terabytes is a whole bunch of space, a whole lot of space. So again, you can drag over pictures, movies, videos, and whatnot, and you'll keep your operating system and your games loaded on the 1 terabyte SSD. And of course, we'll preload the operating system. Now, I mentioned earlier we have a nice GTX 1080 with 8 gigs. That's the fastest consumer gaming graphics card. You won't have any trouble gaming at 4K with that card. With the previous generation, the 9 series, like the 980 Ti, you'd have to back the settings down. From what I've seen, every game I've been able to play at 4K, I'm able to max it out, and with no issues with frame rate. And you see here we're running the Heaven benchmark and getting anywhere from 120 to 60 to 100, even up to 144 frames per second, which is the limit of the monitor. Now we also have a really nice power supply. We have what's known as a component power supply. So not all of the cables are actually plugged in. In other words, usually when you build a system and you don't have a component power supply, all the cables that you don't need, you kind of have to ball up inside the computer and tie down with cable ties. Well, with a component power supply, you're able to only plug in the cables that you need, and this makes cable management a whole lot easier. And of course, this is a 1,000 watt power supply, which is, now that is overkill. That actually could support probably a couple of more GTX 1080s. So this total system draw under full load's probably 400 watts at the most. I mean, that's me trying to really maximize and draw as much power as possible. Right now, we're probably pulling 350 watts doing what we're doing right now. So that's an overview of I guess what we'll call the total Overkill system. If you have any questions, send me an email, michael@xforcepc.com. Again, that's michael@xforcepc.com.